This is the most serious charge ever made against a sitting president. Let's not minimize it. Comey is in the waste basket of history. Everything else is off the table. This is the most serious charge ever made against a sitting president of the United States.
Yeah, it turns out Alan Dershowitz was extremely wrong about that. And I would say it's hard to imagine him being more wrong about anything, but fortunately, we have photographic proof. But the point is, that Russian news was buried the very next day by this.
ABC News confirming that shortly after an Oval Office visit in February, former FBI Director James Comey wrote a memo saying that during that meeting, President Trump asked him to shut down his investigation into National Security Advisor Michael Flynn.
And that was a huge deal, because let me give you a quick reminder about why the FBI was investigating Flynn, a man whose overall demeanor says, "I only fuck on top of the sheets so I don't ruin the hospital corners." Michael Flynn was fired after it emerged he discussed US sanctions against Russia with Russian officials during the transition, despite denying that to the press, to the FBI, and to Vice President Mike Pence. Flynn was so flawed, Team Trump was repeatedly warned about his baggage by both then-acting AG Sally Yates and President Obama, and even, as reported this week, General Flynn himself. But Trump kept standing by him anyway, which kind of makes sense in a way, because literally every decision in the Trump administration is the worst possible one. Paper or plastic, whichever one kills the most birds. Soup or salad, I'm going to go with the N-word. Favourite Beatle? It's got to be Yoko. Anyway, let's get back to this week, because on Wednesday, just 4 days ago, which is the equivalent of 150 years in 2017 time, Donald Trump gave the commencement address at the Coast Guard Academy, and that should have been easy. Simply lift the cadet spirits and point them towards the future. But Trump inevitably used the speech to, well, I'm fairly sure, momentarily forget the word certainty, and then also generally whine about how mean people were being to him.
No politician in history, and I say this with great surety, has been treated worse or more unfairly.
Wait, no politician has been treated worse. Abraham Lincoln was shot by an actor. William McKinley was shot by an anarchist. JFK was, of course, murdered by Ted Cruz's father. And James Garfield was shot, then to find the bullet, and this is true, Alexander Graham Bell devised a kind of metal detector which didn't work, so doctors tried to fish around in his guts for the bullet with unwashed fingers, which just made his infection worse, so he died in horrible pain. But yeah, Alec Baldwin sometimes does a mean impression of you on TV, so yeah, it's basically the same, isn't it? Then, later that same day, the Justice Department appointed a special counsel, former FBI head Robert Mueller, to conduct an independent investigation into the Trump campaign's connections to Russia, which is also a massive development that was closely followed by Thursday's news concerning James Comey, specifically his friend's account of the lengths to which Comey went at this post-inauguration meeting to try and avoid a personal encounter with the president.
He's wearing, if you watch the video of it, he's wearing a blue blazer, and he stands in the part of the room that is as far from Trump as it is physically possible to be, and also against blue drapes that are the same color as his...
He chose that spot?
He chose that spot because it was, you know, like almost like a chameleon, you know, camouflaged against the wall.
Come on, Comey! If you're 6'8", you don't hide by blending into a curtain. You wear a brown suit, you paste a few leaves to your hand and head, and you hope to be mistaken for a tree. That's what you do. Now, luckily, we somehow escaped Thursday alive, and on Friday, the president took off for a 9-day overseas trip. But the wheels of Air Force One had barely left the ground when this happened.
The New York Times now reporting that, according to a White House document, President Trump in the Oval Office told Russian officials 10 days ago that James Comey, the FBI director, was a, quote, nut job.
Now, yeah, that sounds rough, but in Trump's defense, I can kind of see where he's coming from. I mean, the guy keeps hiding in my drapes. Who does that? He's huge. I can see him. Dressed like a tree. You've got